Hey, what's up, guys? Today I wanted to take you all through a foundational Olympic lifting program here. We'll dive into the sheet in a bit. Quickly wanted to talk you through the basics here. So this is really a Olympic lifting program for novices looking to get into Olympic lifting. Potentially they've done a little bit of Olympic lifting before. So it's not somebody that really doesn't know what a snatch or clean and jerk is, but it's somebody that hasn't had a lot of training in it yet. We're going to start training 3 days a week. We'll do a full body session every week. Each session will have a very similar session structure, but slightly different accents. So each session will start with some Olympic lifting technique drills, followed by some partial Olympic lifts, and then some strength work. So the key focus points here are really to develop the movement pattern and teach people how to be explosive in the lifts and really jump the bar up as opposed to pull and row the bar up. As long as people are still pulling and rowing, they're basically not doing the Olympic lifts. They have a very low ceiling and they won't be able to progress. So really step number one in developing the Olympic lifts is get people to understand how to be explosive and jump the bar up as opposed to pull and row the bar up. So that's really why a lot of the technical drills that we do are focused on that second part, that part around the hips, to really get people to understand that. Because once they understand that, teaching them how to come under the bar and stand the bar up from the floor is a lot easier. That's also why initially we're really doing a lot of reps, really focusing on high rep skill acquisition and not really worrying about the amount of weight they move initially. Now the second objective is really to build that foundational strength and muscle mass that they'll need down the road. I'm pretty sure that most people can learn about 80 to 90% of all the technique they ever need in about 3 to 4 months' time. So once they kind of get there, then what's going to really drive and really get them to move forward in their Olympic lifting journey is just getting stronger. And one thing we need for that is muscle mass. So that's why the initial program has quite a high emphasis on high rep muscle building work. Looking at the week, we have 3 days. Again, each of the days will have all the movements, but day 1 will be more focused on snatching, and day 2 will be more on cleans and explosive work, and then day 3 will focus on jerk variations a bit more. As I said, we're going to go really high volume, both on the technical work as well as on the strength work here to build the motor skills and build the muscle that's necessary. Each day will have the foundations like squats and pulls and presses. And we emphasize really like learning how to move before we really use the heavier weights. We will use heavier weights once we get down the road, but this is really to be seen as like part of a first 16 to 20 week program where at the end of the 16 or 20 weeks we'll focus a little bit more on like doing a few singles, getting those 1 rep maxes up, and obviously we'll do another cycle after that and another, but it is also a skill we need to practice. So this is really the foundational phase. After this we'll start lowering the reps a little bit, bringing the intensity up, just very classic periodization here, and then we'll start introducing some full lift variations. Initially in this first probably 4-week block, we won't really do many like from the floor into a full squat variation because it just brings too much chaos to the lifts. For a lot of people, initially putting all those pieces together just creates an environment where too much can go wrong. So what we'll do initially is just break it down. We'll do some pulling from the floor, isolated. We'll do some work from the hang into a power position, isolated. We'll do some pulls into power position, followed by a squat. So we get all the movement patterns, but we don't really put them together yet because usually that's just confusing the heck out of people. So initially, I want them to be able to lift their eyes closed, do all these positions separately, and then once we put them back together, it's going to be a lot easier for them to comprehend. Awesome. All right, so let's dive into the program itself. As you can see, we have 3 different days. All days are full body days. Each day, as we just discussed, starts off with some technical work. Day 1's a bit more snatch focused, day 2 a bit more pull and explosiveness focused, and day 3 has a bit of drills for the split jerk. Now, these drills obviously will evolve over time. Ideally, maybe even evolve week by week, but this is just really a starting point from where to start working on the different aspects of these lifts. As you can see, day 1, we start with some snatch balance, no squats, so just really getting used to that dip, drive, and then punch out under the bar. 3 sets of 5. Again, as I said, a lot of these things will be in pretty high volume, but at really light weights, like RPE 5, 6, maybe even lower. So empty bar, maybe 30, 40 kilos, something like that. It's really not about getting strong. It's just about getting proficient. Using a little bit of load usually kind of teaches the technique around load as well. So I like that. I'm not a huge fan of doing stick drills and stuff like that unless it's really necessary, because the movement or the positions are so hard that it just makes it hard with a barbell. But I'm not a big fan of using sticks too much. So after the snatch balances, we move on to high hang power snatch plus a hang power snatch. So basically these two movements kind of count as 1 rep. So we do a complex there. 4 sets, 2 reps, again, very lightweight. We practice that turnover, so explosive turnover catch. And then we do the same movement, but just add a little bit of a pull to introduce that pull there. So snatch is the focus. We do 2 drills for that. Then we go into a hang power clean plus a front squat. This is basically just the first step to doing like a full clean or a hang squat clean. So what we do is we catch it in the power position and then you ride it down. So we bring a little bit of a pause there so it doesn't get too confusing. They can focus on doing the power clean first and then finish it with a squat. Eventually we'll build this out into a full squat, but it's a great drill to kind of teach the positions, but also not make it too complicated initially. And then we just do 10 split jerks. These can be 10 singles, this can just be 1 set of 10, just to get some touches on the movement. I like having frequent touches on these technique drills. I don't really care that it's only 10 in a session like this. It's just really nice that we get the work in and you just kind of keep refreshing, keep working on that. Then we do back squats, RDLs, pull-ups, and strict press, all in 3 sets of 12, all at about RPE 7, 8 with 3 reps in reserve in week 1. So pretty easy. Pretty high volume still. If somebody's new to this will definitely have quite a big impact. But over the weeks, we'll kind of push and push and push this, getting closer to that 1 rep in reserve, maybe even closer to failure. This is really just focusing on that initial hypertrophy, but also through these high rep sets, we just build movement competence, assuming that somebody is new to Olympic lifting, potentially new to lifting in general. High reps have the advantage of building muscle mass. A lot of new lifters don't have a lot of muscle mass, and muscle mass still is one of the conditions for building a ton of strength. So it helps us build that muscle mass, but it also gives somebody a ton of reps to get better at the skill of doing the lifts, which is really going to pay off later. Day 2. Focus a little bit more on clean. So here we start off with a clean high pull. So really pulling that through, practicing how to come off the floor in a lift, making that hip contact and staying connected to the bar in that lift. 4 sets of 6. Now in this case, I would advise putting plates on the bar just to make sure that we start at that standard height so we really can drill in that start position as well. It's not touch and go, so it's 6 single reps, meaning that we do put the bar down, reset, go up. Again, high reps, shouldn't be crazy fatiguing. We superset this with box jumps, a little bit of explosive work there. In a superset like this, I would expect you to kind of move every 2 minutes. Again, because it's light work, it's really technique work. We can keep the pace up, therefore not extend the training too much. Once the loads get heavier, once we really get into like doing singles or doubles or triples at like 70, 80, 90% of 1RM, obviously we're going to just rest a lot longer. But at this point, we're not doing the lifts at that high intensity. We're also not doing the lifts to necessarily get stronger in the lifts yet. Therefore, it's very appropriate just to keep the pace up a lot more. After that, we do regular power clean. So we've practiced coming off the floor. We're going to go off the floor here in a full power clean, 3 sets of 6. And then we do some hang power snatches and some overhead squats, similar as we did with the cleans there. So practicing catching it and then riding it down. We do some push jerks, really just there, getting 30 reps in, 3 sets of 10, 30 reps of just moving overhead, catching the bar. Overhead squats, front squats, and then some pulling there. Don't do a lot of upper body work here, but we do get a lot of upper body work already in with the push jerks. Overhead squats stabilizing, so that should be enough there. Then day 3, focus on the split jerk a little bit more. Now the reason initially I don't put clean and jerk together is just because it's a very complex lift. If you have to think about all these things, people will start thinking about the jerk before they're even off the floor. Different things will go wrong. So I kind of always want to really make sure that somebody has a proper clean and a proper split jerk before I pair them together. Jumping to split initially, so this is really just a footwork drill. No bar, just working on that split position, 2 sets of 10. We do that as a superset with 4 head split jerks. Means that we just start the bar nice and high and we just drop under the bar. 2 sets of 6 there. And then straight into 2 sets of 8 split jerks. Relatively high volume in terms of reps, so high density there. Not a lot of sets again, but it's more about getting frequent touches than doing a shit ton of work. Now next up, this might be slightly surprising to some weightlifting people, is we're going to do an EMOM. We'll do a segmented power snatch. We come from the floor, stop below the knee and above the knee, and then finish into a power snatch. We'll do that for 2 reps. Every minute. Now the reason I do this every minute is because I kind of want to take the thinking out of the lifting a little. I usually see with this much technique work that people start overthinking the lift and start freezing up. Usually what I find is that the moment we start moving on a timer, we kind of take the ability to overthink the lifts out and you force people to kind of work without overthinking it. So we do 2 reps of that segmented power snatch every minute. Again, keeping the weight light, so it shouldn't become a conditioning workout. But it's mainly just to kind of go on automatic pilot and just move. After that, we do some power cleans, 2 sets of 8. Again, light reps. But we are starting to move more into that full pull off the floor and just getting some reps in there. Then we do a few supersets. So we keep the weights slightly lighter here. We're gonna do some deficit snatch pulls, very big range of motion, so lighter weights, but really targeting a huge range of motion here, lower back, upper back, into some dumbbell strict pressing. So here we go into a superset of split squats and dumbbell rows. The split squats really allow us to work the glutes and the quads a little bit more isolated, which is really important for the Olympic lifts. And then some dumbbell rows here, just unilateral working on that upper back strength. And then we finish off with some core work. Often kind of underrated, but very important, especially for things like snatches and cleans. Having a very strong trunk can just help you stay in position a lot better. So some weighted sit-ups, some back extensions. Now overall, you'll see that at this point, we're really focusing on the big rocks, the big movements. We're doing the squatting, the pulling, all those things, pressing overhead, and not doing too many like isolated movements yet. Now that doesn't mean that I'm against doing those movements, but at this point with a novice, they'll probably just improve doing all these big lifts, and this allows us to just kind of hit more. As we go, we might start seeing underdeveloped areas or areas that just respond a little bit less, which might make it necessary to specifically target certain areas of the body a little bit more. But for a foundational beginners program, I think just starting off with all the basics, the big compounds, just makes the most sense here. For the Olympic lifts, we go off a relatively quick pace. It's technique work, it shouldn't be too heavy, so they shouldn't get out of breath too much. For all the strength work after, we just follow like a standard 2 to 3 minutes between sets. All right, so that's our foundational Olympic lifting program. The next few weeks here would be just progressing the weights. We would run just kind of linear progression, potentially making the drills slightly harder, slightly more focused on full movements. And then at about 4 to 6 weeks in, we'll change some of the reps and sets, and we'll probably start introducing more full lifts. I really hope you enjoyed seeing how this program kind of fits together. If you have any questions regarding Olympic lifts or programming or what variations to use for what type of movements or movement patterns, then by all means let me know in the comments below, and hope to see you next time.